Stories and Documentary Network.
If you haven't seen part 1, make sure to watch that first. The link is in the description. When we explore ancient history through the lens of alternative theories, the story of Earth becomes far more mysterious, and perhaps far more cosmic. According to those who believe in the Nibiru hypothesis, our world is not isolated in its development, nor are humans the sole architects of their civilizations. Rather, the fingerprints of another world, Nibiru, are scattered throughout our history, from the Sumerian plains to the pyramids of Egypt and the stone jungles of Mesoamerica. One of the most consistent motifs found in ancient myths across the world is the appearance of hybrid beings, part human, part divine. These figures, often portrayed as kings, heroes, or gods themselves, were said to possess extraordinary knowledge, strength, and lifespans that set them apart from normal humans. In Mesopotamian lore, the Anunnaki, powerful deities from the heavens, descended to Earth and ruled as gods. The Sumerian king list, an ancient cuneiform document, records reigns of tens of thousands of years, suggesting that these early rulers were not entirely human. Were these the hybrid descendants of the Anunnaki and early Homo sapiens? This idea gains more traction when we compare it with Egyptian mythology, where the earliest pharaohs were considered literal gods on Earth, born from the union of sky beings and mortal women. The famous Osiris, for instance, is described as a ruler who came from the stars, bringing with him the arts of civilization, agriculture, law, architecture, and writing. In Greek myths, the gods frequently mated with mortals, producing demigods like Heracles and Perseus, powerful, tragic heroes who bridged the gap between the divine and the human. In India, the Mahabharata speaks of devas, gods, descending in flying chariots, engaging in wars that resembled advanced technological battles. Across the ocean, the Maya and Aztecs recorded the arrival of Quetzalcoatl, a bearded, pale god who came from across the sea, teaching mathematics, astronomy, and morality. Was this figure one of the Anunnaki or a descendant of their bloodline? If we consider the possibility that these hybrid rulers were real beings, not merely myth, then the Anunnaki's influence on Earth becomes less speculative and more historical. Central to Zecharia Sitchin's theory, based on his interpretation of ancient Sumerian texts, is the idea that the Anunnaki didn't just observe Earth, they intervened in its biology. The texts tell of a time when the Anunnaki needed laborers to work their gold mines, especially in southern Africa. The story goes that they initially used their own people, but the labor was grueling and morale dropped. In response, the gods created a new being, a Lulu, a primitive worker, genetically engineered to obey and toil. According to the Atrahasis epic, the god Enki and the goddess Ninhursag mixed clay with the essence of a god, believed to mean DNA, and created humans. These new beings were intelligent, adaptable, and physically capable, but they were also mortal and, crucially, controllable. Modern science reveals that Homo sapiens appeared suddenly, with no clear evolutionary predecessor that explains the leap in consciousness, speech, and technological capability. Furthermore, 223 genes in the human genome appear to have no known evolutionary ancestry, a mystery that some researchers claim could be evidence of genetic engineering. Interestingly, the oldest known city, Eridu, is referred to in Sumerian texts as the first city built by the gods. Its patron deity? Enki, the geneticist and engineer. Could this have been the site where the first humans were created or modified? If these stories hold any truth, then humanity is not merely the product of blind evolution, but a hybrid species, born of both Earth and Nibiru. From architecture to writing, early human civilizations advanced rapidly and mysteriously. The cradle of civilization, Sumer, appeared almost overnight, complete with mathematics, laws, irrigation, astronomy, and city planning. How did such sophisticated knowledge emerge so suddenly? According to ancient astronaut theorists, it was due to Anunnaki intervention. The Sumerians explicitly credited the Anunnaki for their knowledge. Each city-state had a patron god, not as a symbolic figurehead, but as an actual resident deity who interacted with the population. Temples like the ziggurat of Ur were said to be landing pads or communication towers for the gods. Their texts refer to the Mi tablets, divine objects containing instructions for civilization, codes for law, agriculture, trade, and social structure. These tablets of destiny may have been advanced data storage devices, holding genetic and social programming meant to shape human society. Ancient Egypt. From the stars to the Nile. Egypt's first dynasty also emerged suddenly, with monumental architecture, writing, and a solar calendar. The pharaohs claimed divine descent, often from Ra or Osiris, who were said to have come from the heavens. The Great Pyramid of Giza, aligned with celestial bodies and encoding the dimensions of Earth with stunning precision, may be a legacy of Anunnaki engineering. If it wasn't built by humans alone, it may have served as an energy beacon or navigational device for the gods who once roamed the skies. Furthermore, the Egyptian Ben stone, associated with the phoenix-like Bennu bird, was described as a metallic conical object that came from the sky and rested in Heliopolis. Was this an Anunnaki ship or artifact? Mesoamerica and the bearded gods. In the Americas, the Maya, Inca, and Aztec civilizations all spoke of sky beings who brought knowledge and tools. The Maya believed their calendar was given by the gods, and to this day, it tracks celestial events with greater accuracy than modern systems. Their gods often resembled beings described in Sumerian tablets, tall, sometimes bearded, and carrying bags resembling modern-day briefcases or energy devices, identical across carvings from Mesopotamia to Mexico. Even more intriguingly, legends of underground chambers, flying shields, and starborn kings echo across continents, all pointing to a shared origin myth that defies geography and time. If we connect these global threads, the sudden rise of civilization, tales of sky gods, hybrid rulers, and monumental construction, we begin to see a unified pattern. Cultures separated by oceans and centuries all seem to share one story. Beings came from the stars, uplifted humanity, and departed, promising to return. The legacy of Nibiru may still echo in our religious texts, our royal bloodlines, and even our DNA. Perhaps we are not only their creation, but their experiment. A blend of cosmic and terrestrial, struggling to remember our true origin. The Anunnaki may have left our planet, but their influence remains, in our myths, our monuments, and in the cosmic curiosity that drives us still. The question is no longer if they came, but when they will return. For decades, the astronomical community has speculated about the existence of a distant, hidden planet lurking on the fringes of our solar system. Sometimes referred to as Planet X, this theoretical body has become the subject of intense study, public fascination, and considerable controversy. While conspiracy theorists and alternative historians link this planet to the legendary Nibiru, a rogue world from ancient Mesopotamian myth, modern science approaches the subject from a very different, yet still intriguing perspective. Could these two seemingly divergent narratives, the mythological and the scientific, be describing the same reality in different languages? Or is the idea of Nibiru simply an imaginative misreading of ancient texts, now tangled up with the more rigorous search for a distant celestial object? This chapter explores the current scientific efforts to identify a ninth planet, the gravitational evidence that supports its existence, and the question, could the myth of Nibiru have a kernel of truth within modern astrophysics? The official solar system, as defined by the International Astronomical Union, IAU, includes 8 major planets. Pluto, once the ninth, was reclassified in 2006 as a dwarf planet. Yet since then, a growing body of astrophysical evidence has suggested that another, far more massive object may still be hiding in the outer reaches of our system. In 2016, astronomers Dr. Konstantin Batygin and Dr. Mike Brown from the California Institute of Technology, Caltech, published compelling research proposing the existence of a ninth planet, a hypothetical body 5 to 10 times the mass of Earth, orbiting the Sun at an extreme distance, far beyond Neptune. This idea was not simply speculative. It was based on gravitational anomalies, specifically the unusual clustering of several trans-Neptunian objects, TNOs, in the Kuiper Belt. These distant icy bodies, instead of moving randomly, appear to follow aligned elliptical orbits as though being shepherded by a massive, unseen planetary presence. Brown and Beteighan calculated that such a planet, nicknamed Planet 9, would have an orbit so wide that it would take 10,000 to 20,000 years to complete a single revolution around the Sun. This distant orbit would make it extremely difficult to detect directly with current telescopic technology. However, its gravitational fingerprints appear to be visible in the architecture of the outer solar system. The scientific community took note. While the existence of Planet 9 is still unconfirmed, NASA, the European Southern Observatory, and numerous independent astronomers have acknowledged the plausibility of the theory and continue searching for this elusive object using advanced infrared surveys and next-generation telescopes. This scientific hunt for Planet 9 has inevitably drawn comparisons to Nibiru, the hypothetical planet described in Zecharia Sitchin's interpretations of ancient Sumerian texts. According to Sitchin, Nibiru is a massive, elongated orbit planet that passes through the inner solar system roughly every 3,600 years, triggering cataclysmic events on Earth and playing a central role in humanity's origins. Sitchin claimed that the ancient Mesopotamians were aware of this planet and recorded its passage in their mythologies, particularly through references to the godlike Anunnaki, said to have come from Nibiru to Earth. He identified the crossing of Nibiru's orbit as central to its name, suggesting that it traversed paths between celestial bodies in a unique and dramatic fashion. While mainstream scholars and astronomers have long dismissed Sitchin's work as pseudoscience, the conceptual similarities between Planet 9 and Nibiru are striking. Both are massive planets beyond Neptune. Both have long eccentric orbits. Both are hypothesized to influence other celestial bodies gravitationally. However, the differences are equally significant. Sitchin's Nibiru enters the inner solar system and interacts directly with Earth, whereas the scientific model of Planet 9 suggests a stable orbit well beyond the Kuiper Belt, never approaching Earth's vicinity. In this sense, modern astronomy sees Planet 9 as a cold, dark world on the edge of the solar system, while Nibiru is cast in apocalyptic lore as a rogue planet or destroyer. Nevertheless, some independent researchers have proposed a middle ground. What if the legends of Nibiru were a symbolic recollection of real astronomical observations passed down through millennia in mythological language? Could ancient astronomer priests have observed distant, slow-moving celestial bodies through early methods of skywatching, recording their influence metaphorically in their religious and cultural texts? This hypothesis remains controversial, but it underscores the growing interplay between myth and science, where modern discoveries often echo ideas once considered purely legendary. Gravitational clues and ongoing investigations. Beyond the clustering of TNOs, there are other lines of evidence pointing to Planet 9's existence. Among them, tilt of the solar system's plane. The entire solar system is tilted by about 6 degrees relative to the Sun's equator. Some astronomers believe this could be caused by the gravitational pull of a massive distant object, like Planet 9. Irregular orbits of centaurs and comets. Some objects exhibit unusual, elongated orbits that suggest they've been perturbed by a force far beyond the known planets. Simulation models. When computer simulations include a 9th planet, the predicted orbital configurations of small Kuiper Belt objects match actual observations more closely than simulations without it. Still, despite this mounting indirect evidence, no telescope has captured a visual image of the planet. This may be due to its extreme distance, slow motion, and faint reflectivity. Instruments like the Vera C. Rubin Observatory, due to come online in the near future, may offer the sensitivity required to finally spot Planet 9, if it exists. Debunking the Doomsday Nibiru myth. Despite these intriguing parallels, it's important to draw a clear line between scientific inquiry and apocalyptic conspiracy theories. Beginning in the early 2000s, the myth of Nibiru was co-opted by internet hoaxers who predicted that the planet would collide with Earth in 2003, then again in 2012, in line with misinterpretations of the Mayan calendar. These predictions, amplified by sensationalist websites and viral videos, were universally debunked by astronomers. NASA, in particular, issued multiple public statements clarifying that no rogue planet is on a collision course with Earth. There is no scientific evidence linking Planet 9 with cataclysms. The 2012 Doomsday event was a complete fabrication, fueled by pseudoscience and misreporting. As a result, much of the academic and public skepticism surrounding Nibiru stems not from the ancient texts or astronomical data, but from the fear-driven narratives that falsely associate it with end-of-world scenarios. That said, the legitimate search for distant planetary bodies continues, and if Planet 9 is ever confirmed, it will undoubtedly reignite discussions about how ancient peoples may have perceived the cosmos. Throughout history, civilizations have grappled with visions of the end. Cataclysms, divine retribution, cosmic alignments, all have found their place in ancient texts and sacred traditions. But in the modern age, one name has become strangely synonymous with apocalypse: Nibiru. What began as a fringe theory rooted in speculative interpretations of Mesopotamian lore has evolved into a pervasive doomsday narrative, feeding off humanity's deepest fears and its thirst for cosmic drama. The supposed connection between Nibiru and the apocalypse reached fever pitch in the early 21st century. Nowhere was this more evident than during the global hysteria surrounding the year 2012. Much of the panic stemmed from a misunderstanding or deliberate distortion of the Mayan long count calendar, which concluded a major cycle on December 21, 2012. In scholarly circles, this date marked a calendrical reset, not unlike turning the page to a new millennium. Yet in the public imagination, it became a moment of reckoning. Fueled by online forums, YouTube videos, and sensationalist documentaries, a narrative took shape. Nibiru, an undiscovered planet on a collision course with Earth, would finally appear and bring about mass extinction. The myth was intoxicating in its imagery. An unseen planet breaking through the darkness of space, casting shadows across the moon, tilting Earth's axis, awakening volcanoes, and disrupting magnetic fields. These ideas were not rooted in scientific observation, but they echoed through media channels with alarming velocity. Part of the endurance of the Nibiru myth lies in its adaptability. Unlike fixed prophecies that are disproven after a missed deadline, Nibiru's timeline has remained elastic. When the world did not end in 2003, the date was pushed to 2012. When December 2012 passed without incident, new forecasts emerged, each one reframing the myth and broadening its appeal. The internet became both its amplifier and its archive, a digital echo chamber where belief could flourish unfettered by empirical scrutiny. The entertainment industry further amplified Nibiru's image, though often cloaked in allegory or metaphor. Blockbuster films like 2012, Melancholia, and Deep Impact played with the theme of planetary disaster. In these stories, mysterious celestial bodies either collided with Earth or threatened its very fabric, drawing directly or indirectly from the cultural imprint of Nibiru. The idea of an enigmatic object capable of wiping out civilization proved too compelling to ignore, and its presence spread into novels, video games, and television series. What was once esoteric myth became modern spectacle. Yet beyond the fiction lies a more sobering question. Why are we so drawn to the end of the world? What psychological landscape allows doomsday myths to thrive, even in an age of scientific literacy and technological progress? At the heart of this question is the concept of existential anxiety, the human awareness of our own mortality and the vulnerability of civilization. Apocalyptic myths, like those associated with Nibiru, offer a strange sense of order in a chaotic universe. They frame history not as an endless, uncertain process, but as a story with a beginning, middle, and climactic end. In times of social upheaval, environmental crisis, or geopolitical tension, these myths tend to surface with greater urgency. They reflect not just fear, but also a yearning for transformation, an unconscious desire to see the world reshaped, for better or worse. Social psychologists suggest that apocalyptic beliefs often provide meaning in the face of uncertainty. When people feel disempowered or overwhelmed by complexity, economic instability, war, climate change, they may turn to grand narratives that offer clarity, even if rooted in fiction. The Nibiru myth, for some, became a way to make sense of a world they felt had lost direction. It offered a dramatic, almost divine rationale for their anxieties. The role of the internet in this psychological phenomenon cannot be overstated. Online communities often act as incubators for fringe ideas, offering validation and a sense of belonging to those who feel alienated from mainstream thought. Algorithms promote sensational content, and once someone enters the echo chamber of doomsday belief, it becomes increasingly difficult to leave. In this environment, counter-evidence is often reinterpreted as part of a larger cover-up. NASA's repeated denials of Nibiru's existence were dismissed by some as attempts to hide the truth from the public, an irony that underscores the power of belief over reason. What makes the Nibiru phenomenon especially intriguing is its blending of ancient mythology, modern pseudoscience, and psychological archetypes. It operates on multiple levels, as a reinterpretation of Sumerian lore, as a mirror for contemporary fears, and as a symbol of cosmic reckoning. Unlike traditional religions, which often embed their apocalyptic visions in moral or spiritual frameworks, the Nibiru myth is stark, impersonal, and purely external. It is not divine wrath, but planetary indifference that threatens us, an idea that resonates deeply in an age defined by environmental degradation and the silent march of time. Still, the resilience of this myth points to a broader truth about the human experience. We are storytelling creatures, ever eager to understand our place in the cosmos. Whether through sacred texts, scientific models, or speculative fiction, we construct narratives to bridge the known and the unknown. The story of Nibiru, though born in questionable scholarship and sustained by digital rumor, reflects our timeless fascination with the sky and our place beneath it. As we continue to probe the outer reaches of our solar system, and as telescopes scan the heavens for hidden worlds, it is likely that new discoveries will emerge, some real, some imagined. But behind every myth lies a question worth asking. What are we really searching for when we look to the stars? Truth, perhaps, or perhaps simply ourselves?